TGIF family, thank God it's Friday. Welcome to WWT Live. And it's going to be a full show. As they tell me, everything is bigger in Texas, including All In. We'll talk about that and much more today on WWT Live.
I am your forever ROH Women's Champion, your fallen goddess, the Alpha, the Minion, Overlord, the ROH Gatekeeper. But most of all, I am the best in the world, Athena, and you are watching Women's Wrestling Talk.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet.
TGIF family, thank God it's Friday. Welcome to another edition of WWT Live as part of Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet. I am the professor. That's what they call me around here, or so I think. Gerard Bonner, GB, the professor, Teflon G, pick your name. Either way, we have plenty to talk about, including late breaking news, which we will get into. But first, got a cool crew with me. Now, you guys don't see this guy very often, so I'm honored that he came to hang out with me on a Friday. Jacob DeLawrence, a.k.a. De La, is in the building. How are you, sir?
I am doing great today. Let's just clarify something real quick. Let the record state that I was here on time today.
Yes, you were.
And I'm the only person here other than you.
Well, you can talk to them about that. I don't know where everybody else is.
Oh, yeah, they're all catching it next time I see them.
Catching strays and very intentional shots as well. So how's your day going?
It's pretty good, sir. How are you today, Professor?
I am doing well. I'm doing well. And we are also joined by someone who I don't get to work with very often, but I'm really excited that he's here. I've heard a lot of good things about this gentleman. Welcome, Kyle, to the platform. Kyle, how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm good. How are y'all doing, man?
Doing well, representing knockouts and 3 counts. Where are you from, man?
Sir. Detroit, if I didn't tell you.
Detroit Rock City. That's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Well, it's good to have you with us. We're going to have a fun day for sure. Shout out to Dylan, of course, always representing from all the way across the world in Australia. Great to have him with us. So we have to start with some late breaking news, which is really unfortunate news. And that is, we have officially heard today of the passing of Afa Anoa'i, one half of the Wild Samoans who passed away earlier today. It's kind of wild, of course, one half of one of the scariest tag teams in all of pro wrestling, that, of course, being the Wild Samoans. And, of course, you could make the argument that the Wild Samoans really are a foundational part of what we know today as the Bloodline, 3-time World Tag Team Champions. And ironically, Afa's brother Sika passed away about 7.5 weeks ago. So it has not been a long time. Another major loss in the Anoa'i family. Let's talk a bit about the significance of Afa and the Wild Samoans. Kyle, we'll start with you, man. Any thoughts, memories, or anything about the Wild Samoans?
So I'm a little too young to have watched them in their heyday, but I certainly know plenty about the contributions of the Wild Samoans. I mean, obviously, the first and most easy one for anyone to name, the tribal chief, Roman Reigns, that family, he comes right from them. His brother just passed, like you mentioned, and just like we've all talked about, like the legacy that they leave, they were the first like killer tag team you ever really saw in WWE. And then, I mean, you had the Road Warriors and stuff like that. But for what you see today with guys like Rikishi and, go down the list, the Usos and everybody else that came after that. Without them, I mean, they're a cornerstone of that Anoa'i family, period. And, thoughts and prayers go out to the whole family. I've gotten to kick it and know Jacob Fatu a little bit. And so, like I said, they're probably like the nicest people you could ever meet. So, like I said, prayers to the whole family.
For sure. Jacob, man, your thoughts on the contributions of the Wild Samoans?
Yeah, like Kyle said, they laid a lot of groundwork and they were one of those truly like terrifying tag teams back in the day. I remember seeing videos from the 80s that my dad had and watching them and being a little kid being like, yeah, nah, I'm good. Cause like they put the real in realism. Like they made you feel like this isn't scripted. Like they are trying to hurt you.
Yeah.
To quote FTR, no flips, just fists. That was the Wild Samoans. Like everything is in your face, aggressive. They are definitely one of the most underrated tag teams from that 70s to like mid 80s, late 80s reign. Because yeah, you had Midnight Express, Warriors, Freebirds, but the Wild Samoans were right there. They are definitely a cornerstone of tag team wrestling. And like Kyle said, the bloodline, you got Roman Reigns, you have those two, you have the High Chief. They are as much of a cornerstone of wrestling as there is, and I don't think they got enough praise. And unfortunately, but hopefully, with the passing of both of them within the past 2 months, hopefully people will, be a little more inclined. Open up Peacock and let's go through and let's look at some of those classic WWF tapes, Saturday night main events, live from Madison Square Garden, superstars from back in the day, and get a little familiar.
Yeah, one of the other things that I don't think people realize is, again, you talk about the contributions that they made, their family alone, but then from there, Alpha opened up a training center, a wrestling training center, and has trained a lot of incredible wrestlers who have come through there. So again, the contributions of Alpha on Hawaii, of the tag team, the Wild Samoans, is just something that is really, really special. And it's very safe to say, I know a lot of people, when you talk about the Anoa'i family, you talk about, they mentioned The Rock, they mentioned Peter Maivia, they mentioned a lot of these names. But, if you think about what the Wild Samoans did, 3-time world tag team champions, and even predating the Road Warriors, they were the kind of team that made it why. I mean, like, again, their names fit them. They were wild. They were nuts. Like the things that they did, you didn't see during that time in wrestling. And so, much to your point, Jacob, I think this is a great opportunity for fans who have never seen these guys work, who have not been familiar with them. These days, there are plenty of opportunities for people to be able to go back and catch up on things that they could not watch years and years ago. And so whether it's Peacock, whether it's YouTube, it's definitely worth doing. We've got an elected official who's just joined us. The councilman is here. Councilman, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. I thought y'all should have a actual elected official here today. So wanted to hop in. We're gonna keep it cordial during this time right now.
You are like an elected official showing up late. That is very elected official of you.
Oh wow. Already.
Yes.
Wow.
I'm sorry. Sorry, I don't have a co-mayor to take my place before I get here and stuff myself.
Sir, I'm an accountant for hire. I did my work for Chase U this week. So now I think I'm going to slide over TNA and do some more work for Chase U. I'm just an accountant for hire, okay?
Well, we will. That is good. We'll get into Chase U in a little bit. But, Councilman, man, let's get your thoughts on Alpha, his contributions as well.
Oh yeah, I think just like what y'all said before, I heard before hopping on, like these are two guys that are just incredible in the ring. Like when I see them, I think of folks like Abdul the Butcher, like it was, or Bruiser Brody. Like it was no joke when you got in the ring with them. Like the hits, there's a reason. Like during those times, like a DDT did it because that was it. And I was just talking to some friends of mine, and I was just like, the Wild Samoans reminds me of like Blade to Marvel. Like these guys are the godfathers of this entire bloodline we have, from Rikishi to Solo to Roman to all of these folks. And even to Jacob's point, I don't think they get the credit that they deserve for how many wrestlers that they've been able to give us since their time in the ring, outside of the ring, training the next generation. And so and I also think too, it's like not I don't want to use the word poetic, but I was just like, these are some people that, and I commented this on WWE's post, like this is a true tag team. His brother passing away a couple of months, you not wanting to be away from your brother, and then also, passing away too. It's just like, these are true tag teams. It's a true family and it's true love. And it's just like, yo, it was just, if you were there during that time, it was something great to see. And if you haven't seen it, to Professor's point, go watch these matches that these guys put on, because there's what we call evergreen here in the industry. They don't get old. You will always love every match you see.
The question is, though, how much do you think in 2024 people are like the kids today will go back and go look at that stuff? Like, I feel like our generation, I mean, I grew up in the 90s. I feel like we used to try to go get all the tapes and anything you could watch. You know what I mean? Like the tapes and DVDs and all that stuff. I feel like today, I don't feel like you see as many fans doing the deep dive.
Yeah, and to that end, I think that is part of the unfortunate part about what we see in this current environment. You know, I think that there are people, you know, if you grew up in the 90s and even the 2000s, who would have literally given all kinds of money to be able to get access to old wrestling footage and check out wrestlers that they couldn't see. Here we are now, where you have streaming platforms. You have the entire WWE network, which has the bulk of pro wrestling's library on it. You got YouTube. You have all of these places that you can access this information. And I think that's really one of the reasons why we get to do what we do, by informing people, this is where this information is. Go out and do that particular research, because you'll certainly discover just how great this tag team and all of these other legends happened to be. And I would say, much to, I think, the point that you made, Councilman, when you go back and watch the Wild Samoans matches, they've aged insanely well. And if you start thinking about what that era back then did, the brutality that they gave us before we were getting, you know, people going through tables and set on fire and all kinds of things, the brutality that these guys brought to the table, it laid the groundwork for what we have right now. You don't have Extreme without this. You don't have those types of things. And so I definitely think we're looking at, we've lost something very significant in 2024. And if you think about over the last, you know, 2-3 months, losing both of the Wild Samoans, losing Kevin Sullivan, you know, we've lost some great minds for our business. And so even with a Kevin Sullivan, go back, watch the footage that's on WWE Network, watch the footage on YouTube, and you'll get to see how these, who were some of the best villains that the business ever had, that they laid the groundwork. You know, they really, really did. And this was way before people were, you know, very interested in you knowing their real names and all that kind of stuff. No, these were the guys that if you saw them in the street, they'd bust you upside the head and you'd be fearful of them. Like, you wouldn't walk up to them trying to get their autographs, because you understood you could get hurt. Yeah. And so, yeah, they're special, special guys. So go back, check out what the Wild Samoans brought to the table. Check out what, of course, Kevin Sullivan and so many. And already Roman Reigns has put out a tweet, and he's talked about, just again, another massive loss that has happened to their family. Of course, Sika was Roman's father. Afa is Roman's uncle. So again, our thoughts and prayers are with the entire Anoa'i family. 2 major losses in the span of 2 months. And definitely we will be thinking about them, as they are scheduled to be highly featured tonight on Smackdown, and we will certainly get to that. Moving
quick sidebar. Sorry to interrupt, Professor. I'm glad you mentioned that, you know, Reigns and them are heavily featured to be on SmackDown. It is weird timing that they've had to go through this, because I remember Money in the Bank was the funeral, and then Jay had to literally jet to Toronto. Let's give Roman, Jay, Solo, Tongaloa, let's give all of them credit for the fact that they are able to process these things and then turn right back around within hours and go out and be professionals. I think that takes a special level of talent, and I think that is kind of a family thing, the Samoan way. Just the way of like, all right, this sucks. We got work to go do. What would they want us to go do? What would Sika and Alpha want us to go do? And it's go tear the house down. So I think we're going to get something real special tonight from Roman and them.
Yeah. And I think that's the best way they honor their memory, because even that group was, it didn't matter what it was. If they were sick, if it was fear, like they didn't miss dates, they were there. And so I think that's a great way to honor them. And also too, with therapy, to be able to know like, yo, my father, my uncle is looking down on us and seeing that, you know, like despite what people may want to say, the Cody crybabies and all that, we are in the I know why he era right now. And they have taken the reins, no pun intended, and that's who are going to dominate the WWE for the next 10 years.
Yeah, I definitely think, to your point, it is a very, very nuanced skill set to be able to go in front of millions of people on the same day or 24 hours after your loved one has passed. And so I think, again, this is all the more reason why we should honor those performers who hop on a stage and hop on a screen, you know, every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, because they are carrying all of these kinds of real life pressures with them just to come in and entertain us. So definitely we will be thinking about them tonight. Now, moving into other news, we are exactly 9 days away from All in London, major event happening, of course, for AEW, the biggest event on their calendar. And so it's very interesting, kind of like in the spirit of WrestleMania, where, you know, WrestleMania will tell you where they will be in the next year. I think a lot of people might have been surprised to find out that All In 2025 will not be returning to Wembley Stadium and London. Instead, it will be heading to Globe Life Field in Texas on July the 12th. So a few things to note about this. For one, it is earlier on the calendar than the previous two All-Ins. The previous All-Ins were this coming weekend, which is the weekend of like August 25th, close to Labor Day. So it is now being right. So it is now being moved up to July, which I think is actually a very smart move, because they have All Out, which last year was the week after. This year will be, 2 weeks after. So at least there will be some significant distance between All In and All Out, if All Out is to happen. But yeah, big piece of news on this yesterday. A lot of the champions from AEW were present for this moment. Before we get into some of the other implications from this, I want to get your thoughts on All In Texas. It's the first pay-per-view they've done in Texas and the first stadium show they've done domestically. Kyle, let me start with you. How do you think this is going to work for AEW? Do you think they'll be able to fill up Globe Life Field, and will people be excited enough to be a part of this huge event in Texas?
A couple things. One, it makes you wonder, like, number one, I agree with you 100%. I really like the fact that they're moving it away from All Out, because I always thought that was just like too congested. Because I've been to probably at least 3, if not 4 of the All Outs, because I live in Detroit. So I've driven down to Chicago and have been there and covered StarCast and all of those things down there. And I say that to say, like, there were some shows, while none of the All Outs were like bad to see, but because you just had a show like 2 weeks before that, even though we've only, had the ones that have happened so far, it kind of made it feel like the show the next day didn't have enough hype to it, or it just kind of was like what was left over from the other show. You know what I mean? So I feel like them splitting this is going to be really good. It'll give it more time to breathe. And then both shows will be able to have their own significance. Not that All In didn't already with what they were doing in England, but I just feel like it'll make the stories or whatever matches they have going into it, changed. But that being said, shout out to my guy Megaran. He's just headed out there. He's going to be down there at All In. And, I think going into this show, though, I'm really there's a lot of stuff that I'm looking forward to see. I think the way that they've built the whole Bryan Danielson thing, and, like, really emphasizing, like, yo, if I lose, this is it. Like, I like that we're finally starting to see some things, although it could definitely be put in there more.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I like the fact that we're at least getting some things that have got more story to them in a lot of ways. And I feel like, especially with a guy like Bryan Danielson, if inevitably at some point he has his last match, whenever that's going to be, whether that's this weekend or further down the road, I feel like it has to be done well. I like how they've done that. And I'm a big fan of Swerve as well. Ironically, the tattoo on my arm, he was sitting there in the tattoo room with us showing us pictures of his pig. So the dude's cool people. But, you know, I don't know. I'm really torn on how I see this one going. In a lot of ways, I'd like to see Swerve's brain, you know, keep going because I've enjoyed what he's done. And I think he's done a good job as champion. At the same time, though, it's one of those situations where against a guy like Bryan Danielson, you know, can he really lose in this one? Is it? And then we'll really know, I guess, at that point, whether this really is the end for Bryan Danielson.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, say her name and she'll appear. We believe in Honey. Honey is here. How are you, Honey?
What up, though?
I'm fantastic. Hope everybody's doing all right. I apologize for the sound if I sound off or anything. I am not in the honey pot today.
Well, I was gonna say, tell the people where you are, because you're not just any random place.
You're absolutely right about that. I am in New York City, just coming off of the first day of Fanatics at the Jacob Javits Center, representing the crew here at WWT.
Yep.
And it's been quite
the day.
Wow. Disappeared and reappeared just that fast. I love it. I love it. So talk about what you have already experienced on day one, being there at Fanatics Fest.
Well, absolute chaos. It was chaos. It was great. Lots of cool people to see, lots of people that you want to be around. I would even say a few good selfies that I caught today. You know, I'm not going to give away too much, but there's everybody is in the building. Just know that it's pretty awesome. There's just like UFC, sports, wrestling, all kinds of things. The WWE section has like a place where you do like your own entrance and you pick whoever's theme song you want to use, and the kids were out there and it was Make-A-Wish and so much really cool things happening out here, man. This is definitely the city to be in this weekend.
That is absolutely awesome. And Seth is actually in the comments, and I'll just put what he said. He said not one Pereziak at that event, according to his intel. But we'll get into Roxanne Perez because I've heard about what her plans are for tonight. Go ahead.
Technically, I am a Pereziak, so yes, a Pereziak was present, Mr. Mayor.
At least one. At least one.
The very least. We out here.
So, honey, let me ask. I'm not sure how long you'll be with us, but let me ask you this announcement that dropped yesterday from AEW, All In being in Texas in 2025. What do you think about this announcement? And, you know, do you think that AEW All In will be able to pack out the Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas?
For their sake, I hope so. I mean, Texas is a great state to be in, especially for anything sports related. They have really great following out there. I'm really I'm kind of excited for them to see what the results will be and what can transpire before then, because this is well into next year. But I mean, hey, if they want to try to pack the house, it's the best time to start is now, you know. So I'm really excited for them and excited to see what kind of show they'll put on. It's going to be really, really interesting. I heard some people had a few interesting words to say about this all-in event and comparing it to a certain other event that happens every year.
Yeah, we will get to
it's
that.
Not the same.
We're going to get to that. I promise you. Councilman, let me ask you this. Globe Life Field has a seating capacity of about 40,000. Now, that does not include what's actually on the field, because of course they are the stadium for the Texas Rangers, the baseball team. So you start putting, seats on the field, you could probably add a good 10,000. So we're talking, let's just say 50,000 potentially, if you include the field there. Have they made a bigger statement than we realize by moving this from Wembley, which has the potential to seat 90,000, to a place that has potential to seat 50,000? Are they making a statement, or is this just a better deal overall for AEW?
Yeah, I think it's a good test to do. Like we've talked about this before, that they said they actually want to go to the Dallas Stadium and host an event. We think all out may be. I think this is a good test to see how you can do in this market of Texas. Because the good thing is Arlington is right between Fort Worth and Dallas. They're not far from one another. So people from Dallas and Fort Worth could travel here to Arlington to be able to fill up those seats and then really get a test of what their AEW crowd is like out there. And if they can pack Globe Life Field up, then it gives more incentive for them to say, hey, maybe we can fill up that Dallas stadium that packs almost over 100,000 people when we do, I would take All Out, because I guess that's their biggest pay-per-view. So it's a good test. I think it's something smart for them to do and try, and then especially during July in the summertime, because it gives them more inclination for wrestling fans to want to get in there and not have so much to have to compete with anybody else.
Jacob, let me ask you this. I know Kyle mentioned traveling to several of the previous All Outs. And certainly when you think about AEW in their inception 2019, and you could make the argument about the original All In 2018, there was an excitement where people were willing to travel from all across the country to be there. Now, I know we're a year away, but do you think that AEW can create the kind of buzz that would make people want to travel from across the country and around the world to All In Texas in 2025?
I don't know, because here's my thing. One, you're doing this in July in Texas. I understand it's North Texas, but I don't know about y'all, but it's hot as hell in the South. And like, you going to Texas, that humidity and that dry heat, baseball stadiums aren't the best when it comes to airflow, spacing. I get Globe Life is like one of the newest and one of the most modern stadiums, but it's just weird to do this in the middle of July. At least it's an open air stadium, so there's that. But you're going into Texas in the middle of July. It feels weird. And then trying to jam in about 40 to 45, maybe 50 on the most, 1,000 people when you're struggling to pack out the esports auditorium that holds maybe about 10, give or take, or less.
No,
I don't know.
That holds 2,500 people.
I was trying. Okay, look, even proving my point. I would hope, though, for their sake, that they can, because I don't want this to fail, because if that fails, it is still an indicator on wrestling as a whole, not just AEW. So they need to succeed. If you can pull 35,000 and make it look good, call that a win. I just question going into Texas in July. I understand it's North Texas. And also, I don't know if anybody's ever been out to Globe Life Field, but it is in almost the middle of nowhere, because it's right next to Jerry World, and that is like out there a little bit to get to. So you can fly into Dallas Fort Worth, no problem, but like that trek out there is a little, it's like a small city, basically.
Texas is far to get to, for sure. I went out
That
there
too.
for Mania a couple of years ago. Like, there's like nothing that's like close. They're all at least like 30, 40 minutes away. Like, even the indie shows were like that. I mean, to your point that you guys had already made, man, like I like the fact that it's split out from All Out. I really do, because that way it lets them both breathe. But like, the thing for me is, I hope that isn't a sign of like, did the one in England not sell as well yet? We won't know that till this weekend. But like,
I think it's something else.
What do you think it is?
I think it's a money issue. Like, I understand Tony Khan is a billionaire. I get that. But when you start looking at financials, and you got to think about this, you're having to send crew, send equipment, send everything across the pond, and then either run a skeleton crew and run half and half because you got to turn right back in a week or two and put on another big show. Also, Wembley's not cheap. Like Wembley,
no, not at all.
To the Europeans is MSG to us. It's the most famous arena. It's a beautiful place. I've been there. I love it.
Way bigger.
But I feel like that cost is like starting to add up, and maybe you factor in some of those ticket sales. And I think Tony's like, let's try something different. And also, I think this is a little bit of a, hey, guys, we appreciate you giving us the esports auditorium. This worked pretty well. Let's do you a solid, Arlington. Let's do you guys a solid, and let's run this for you.
Oh, and I think that totally could be a case too. I mean, I wasn't saying that is the answer. I'm just saying because you've done the last two in England and then to switch it up and now it's in Texas, it totally could be something like that. I mean, look what the WWE just did with Indiana. Indiana's about to get like Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, and I think another one for like 2 years, aren't they?
Yeah, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, it's all coming there over the next
we know
few
Texas is a top wrestling state. Like there's so many people that come from Texas, so it would be a smart thing for AEW to put their flag down in Dallas because you have so much more opportunity there.
I think it'd be dope. Like I said, I mean, I've been to a bunch of shows out there at this point, including the WrestleMania that Stone Cold had his last match. Like I said, I think it's a good move. Like I said, it's just interesting, like everybody said, how you have the sudden switch.
Yeah, so the question then becomes, so what happens? Does AEW return to London in 2025? And so on an interview today, Tony Khan actually spoke to that, and and he said that AEW will return to London in 2025, just not for All In. And there's talk that All In could return to London in 2026. Now, I'll say this, and I don't want to make it any more than what it is, but there are some feet in the ground there in England who have said that there was an interesting scenario that happened where there were a number of free tickets that were given away to All In this year. So there's a part of me that feels a couple of things. I think, number one, the first All In London last year, which drew 81,000, a lot of that, I think, was the combination of AEW performing very well in England on television and AEW's first trip to London. And so everybody wants to be there for the first one. I don't know if there is as much buzz this year. Certainly the ticket sales have not gone the way that they did last year. They've already only allocated, I think, max for about 50, maybe 60,000 in terms of their setup. So that's already 20,000 less than what they had last year. And we'll see what those final numbers end up looking like. I think it's interesting that Globe Life is a much smaller venue than Wembley Stadium. I also think that it is an interesting assertion to be able to go, all right, we're going to do a stadium show, but it's not as large of a stadium show as some of the other stadiums that are out here. I actually think that that's smart on their part. It has been a long time since they've drawn, a 20,000 seat crowd. I think the largest one they had this year was the pay-per-view they did in Greensboro for Sting's retirement, where they crammed 16,000 in there, and that was pretty amazing. So they're going to need a pretty amazing card here in the States in July of next year to fill that place up, and they've got time. So we'll see what that looks like. Now, in the meantime, there was a lot of press done around this, including, by the way, this is just such a great shot. These three great champions, Athena, Swerve, and Mercedes Moné. Mercedes, of course, is the TBS champion. And she did an interview to talk about what she believes is the difference between All In and WrestleMania. And her comparison is this. I'm just going to say what she said, and then you can decide what you think. She says the prep week for All In feels the same as Mania. However, when you're prepping for Mania, you're kind of worn down by the time you get to the big day, as each day is stacked with press and events. The big difference is that WWE is in town for a whole week during their event, while we're not in the UK yet. I'm not sure what press and events we will be doing next week, but I'll be sure to do as much as I can to ensure this is promoted as much as possible. I'm sure I'll go without sleep for part of it. It comes with the turf. A lot of times in WWE, by the day of WrestleMania, a lot of the boys and girls would be so tired. But like I said, by match time, the adrenaline would kick in. The fans screaming and cheering wakes you up. Do you think Mercedes
And that's why she's the fourth best horsewoman. That's why. That's why she's number 4. Shit like that.
The irony in her using the words part-time is hilarious to me.
Woo! Just when you gotta give her a little bit of leeway. You give her a compliment, like, you know, Mercedes, when we say Mercedes Moné isn't that bad on the mic, and she goes say some ignorant, you know what?
I say she's third best, but damn.
You haven't. They haven't even reached the cusp of doing what WrestleMania can do just yet. Not in my eyes. So I guess. I mean, she's just speaking her truth from her point of view, but you know, doesn't mean we have to all agree with it.
Would you like to hear more of what she had to say?
Yes, please. I would like to.
So
get comfortable for this.
She also spoke about her schedule this week. She said about her schedule this week. She's, quote, besides having a TV match, I also have to hit Dallas and Arlington for a big press conference. I know one of the many reasons Tony brought me here was for the marketing and press. So I never shy away from AEW requests to promote whatever initiative or product. It's not always easy to accommodate. The biggest problem is that I can't be in 2 places at once. One of the many things I love with Tony and AEW is that they get me the support I need in order to do as much as I can. We have so much going on this month that I don't even have time to go home to pack. I can always buy what I need on the road, as I am often forced to do. I don't love having to do so, as again, I like to be frugal. But if doing so helps me to manage my schedule and stay on track, then so be it. Someone on my team or I can hit a local mall to fill any gaps.
I guess they need to work harder after what you just told us about them ticket sales for All In, because obviously her press is not working.
All right. So I said this years ago on a pod with Seth, and I'm just going to ask it now. And I truly believe this. Does she really love this game anymore? Like, I'm really starting to feel like she is that person that is teetering on the edge of retirement, of like the football player that's like, hey, I love Sunday, but Monday through Friday and Saturday can go to hell because I don't want to deal with it. And I feel like that's where she is. And really, Tony, is this the person you want to keep sticking a live mic in front of out here doing media for you?
Kyle, what do you think about this?
I mean, look, man, there's no denying what she can do in the ring, what she has done, what her resume is, even to anybody else who's on the roster really in AEW. But the thing is, I feel like as much as she talks about the press and the press that they're doing and what they're doing to put eyes on it, I'm gonna be honest. I feel like a lot of the companies in 2024 could do a better job of trying to like get out to as many places as they can. But to Sed's point, I mean, you know, if the ticket sales are what they say they are and they're given away for free, it is what it is. But at the same time, to play devil's advocate, you know, I mean, I also come from the fight game. I know that there's a lot of times, and for big fights, I know they were giving free tickets away to the Clarissa Shields fight that I just did here in Detroit. You know, or she gave away 400 tickets to kids in the city to come to the fight. You know what I mean? So, like, at the same time, I don't think that free tickets is necessarily a bad thing, but to both of your guys' points, it's an interesting thing to watch when I think we can all agree that when they brought her in, they were hoping she was going to be like the big signing that really put things over the hill, especially with the way that she left WWE. I'm not saying that she's not great, but only time will tell if it really pans out for AEW.
This is what happens when you go with the fourth best horsewoman and thinking
Oh,
you're
man.
going to get number one results. This is what happens.
Oh boy.
Now, if this was Becky Lynch, we wouldn't be having these problems.
Wow.
We wouldn't have heard none of this.
Because
She'd have been on the road. She'd have been promoted.
Right, because apparently Big Time Bex could be a best-time selling author, have a baby, and still wrestle, win a championship, and then go back and leave. Like, you don't hear her complaining about that. Just saying.
No, her husband does it in a roundabout way for her.
Not too much.
Wow.
Not too much. Not too much on Rollins.
Not
too much on Rollins.
Wow.
Y'all gonna leave Rollins alone.
So Kyle, let me come back and ask you one more question.
Okay.
Is it fair, even though this is only the second All In, is it fair to make a comparison between All In and WrestleMania at this point?
Well, I mean, I think it's their biggest show, hands down. So, I mean, if WrestleMania is WWE's biggest show and this is their biggest show with being in the stadium like that, I mean, this is where the comparison thing kills wrestling. Like, I just, like, AEW needs to be AEW and WWE needs to be WWE. I don't know. That's just me. But as to your question, though, I just feel like wrestling in 2024 has become a big comparison game. And like I said, for the reasons listed, with it being both of them's biggest show, I mean, it's the only way they really are going to look at it.
I will say, number one, I agree with you. This is I don't believe that comparison is healthy, but we do it so much in this environment.
Why can't we just like them all?
That I'm there, and to me, I mean, the commonality is wrestling, but they're two completely different products, and they're really going after two completely different audiences. I will say though that if you are making a comparison to WrestleMania, you've already acknowledged what the biggest event is. And that, I think, is where it's problematic.
You did, but I mean, was anybody ever really arguing that WrestleMania wasn't bigger?
Well, but
like,
here's what I'm saying.
Mercedes basically said it herself.
Sure, she said it. I don't think that AEW would ever publicly acknowledge that, though. That's the thing. I mean, I think we can all agree.
I feel like anybody that really watches wrestling already knows that, though. Like, whether they want to play it that way, because, again, this goes back to the tribalism of wrestling fans, man. People are so much like, oh, my God, I'm AEW, the hell with WWE. And you've got people on the other side that are the same way. Again, this is why I say, why can't we just like them all? Because, really, you're comparing apples to oranges. And it's really been that way since AEW started. You know, like I said, I've been to a few of them, but it's been that way all along.
Go ahead, honey.
I'm sorry. It's more like I don't knock AEW entirely, but I will say that it's just something that comes with the turf of the fans and everything like that, the comparison and whatnot. So you can't, I mean, it is what it is, but I want to like both. That's my issue. I want to like both equally as well. Okay, sorry. I want to like both, but it's just one of those things where it's like you just gravitate towards one more than the other because the other is a little bit more polished up and they have all the tools and all the things that make the machine run. AEW's problem for me is consistency. And the lack of consistency will cause us not to compare it even at all whatsoever. But if they can consistently put on All In every year and sell out the house and you know what I mean? It could definitely be on its way to becoming a big show as big as WrestleMania. It's just more so about the consistent booking. And I can't believe I just witnessed that.
Whatever that was didn't sound very good. So I hope you're safe.
Oh no, I'm safe. It's actually that I forget that guy, but he dances around in New York with the iPod in his ears and he like makes fun of like Shakira and all this stuff, the Asian dude. He's literally right over there shooting a freaking video. It's hilarious.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
And I
But
think,
luckily, nothing bad was happening.
and I
Well,
think to keep
with all of,
oh my bad.
I was
I
gonna
was
say,
just gonna say
with all, go ahead.
go ahead. My fault. My fault. I know. I was just gonna say to Kyle's point, it's also too how AEW came in with it. Had they just came in to be another type of show for wrestling, that'd been different. But you came in shooting shots at WWE. You came in hot like you were going to take over. So now those comparisons are gonna start. You did the whole Cody did the whole clone thing. They always the things with poaching different people coming here to take care of them. You started the comparison between the other.
But that's just wrestling. Everybody's done that since day one. TNA has done that. WCW did it. ECW did it. It is par for the course. I'd be more shocked if AEW didn't. I think the biggest issue is, and the biggest separating between them is WWE is like, we are straight up entertainment, and we will acknowledge, and we are proud to tell you, hey, we do entertainment via wrestling and everything else. AEW is like, we are where the wrestlers play. We are here for wrestling. And I think that is their problem, where it's like, hey, give us a little more story, a little more entertainment. I think that's where their fan support is lacking, because you can only watch so many 5-star matches with the same spots without having enough build-up. Like, get me invested in something, which is what they're doing now, and they're putting out some of their better work, and they're starting to get a slow uptick in crowds. But I mean, come on, it's wrestling. It's the industry we're in. We know what this is.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Now, with all of the mention of WrestleMania, there is this nagging question that's been out here. So I think when we looked at WrestleMania 39 coming out of it, the nagging question was, should Rock have been there? The nagging question for many coming out of WrestleMania 40 is, should Steve Austin have been there? Should Stone Cold have been the guy to insert himself in the Bloodline Rules match? Well, apparently there is some actual confirmation per Stone Cold Steve Austin, who apparently has said that it was supposed to be him in that spot of The Undertaker. He said that they were very close, he and WWE, in terms of negotiations. He said they reached out to me. We had conversations. My wife and I had some things going on, and I didn't need to go to Philly at that time. I have said I miss Mania, and Philly was a good town for me back in the day. Couldn't make it to that one. He did end, though, by saying WrestleMania this year is in Vegas. This is the second time he's kind of
go around a couple times too.
Yeah, do you think, Kyle, that we're gonna see a Stone Cold sighting?
I sure as hell hope so, because I'm gonna be there, and I've got sure as hell hope so, because I'm gonna be there, and if I got any kind of opportunity to be able to interview Stone Cold, that would probably knock off my white whale as far as interviews that I got to do. I've literally got the Stone Cold skull tattooed on me from his last match, so it's part of my sleeve. So I would definitely be down for that. And Vegas is already going to be quite a hell of a trip for me because, like I said, I also cover the combat sports side of things. I got to train over at Extreme Couture while I'm down there. A lot of stops I got to make while I'm in Vegas, but I'm already looking forward to it.
That's going to be sweet. That's absolutely going to be sweet. Shout out to Dylan. We appreciate you, buddy. Always appreciate when you guys decide to donate to the cause. So thank you so much. Councilman, do we get a Stone Cold sighting in Vegas next year?
I'm like Kyle, I hope so. Austin is the reason I started watching wrestling. So to get that glass shatter and just to add to what's in WrestleMania, like, yo, I think it makes all the sense. And just for him hinting at like, I want to stay in Nevada. It's hard to get me to leave Nevada. Look where it's at.
That was one of the coolest shit I've ever been to, dude, to be there for that. So, like, if you're going to do that again, although, like, I've never been a big fan of the, like, come back after you retire, let's say it's your last match thing. At the same time, it's pro wrestling, and like you said, I'm a Stone Cold guy, so fuck it, let's go.
Let's all give Steve a pass, all right? Let's all give Steve a pass.
I'm with it.
Yeah, he's retired. Yes, he's in the Hall of Fame already. And yes, he had a semi-last match, possibly, potentially, but I will never. I always go back to this moment, and I was at WrestleMania 40. Man, everybody was talking about Steve. everybody was talking about Steve showing up for that Bloodline Rules match, even for the tag team match to help out Cody and Seth Rollins. But I honestly, there was just something about that night that everybody was ready on the go. When The Rock was there whipping Cody Rhodes, and everybody had their cameras up. Everybody had their cameras up and ready. Like, here we go. That glass is gonna shatter. But instead, I wouldn't say it wasn't disappointing at all, but I will say that it was just a tad sweeter just to get that gong instead of the glass shatter, because it was even more of a surprise, being that we weren't expecting Taker there. He was sitting up in the crowd. He was sitting up in the booth, you know, and somehow made his way down to the ring. But if God willing, we hear some glass shattering in Vegas, I think it will be amazing. It would be totally amazing to see Steve Austin come through at least one more time.
Maybe we get an interference, because I think we may get. And again, it's just throwing it out there. Could be way reaching. I think we might get Cody versus Rock at Mania, and a perfect time for Stone Cold to come in, especially with who Cody Rhodes is and how the final boss is acting. I could see interference from Austin.
Yeah, it definitely could happen. We've got a ways to go with that, but yeah, Stone Cold could really, really be a thing. But right now, a word from our sponsor.
This episode of Women's Wrestling Talk has been brought to you by All Caribbean Wrestling. Catch the wave. Go to allcaribbeanwrestling.com to check out all the latest pay-per-views, or go on the YouTube page at All Caribbean Wrestling. Also, go and check out their socials on Instagram at All Caribbean Wrestling and on X at All Caribbean WR1.
Hey, yo, you. Yeah, you that's watching this. You sitting on the couch staring at the screen, not knowing what you want to do, like this is an online college. Are you tired of wearing shirts that make you look like an extra stuck in catering? Do you want to step your wrestling swag game up to the next level? Then Women's Wrestling Talk has got you covered. Like, literally. Are you for life in pink or black and white? Or maybe you're the EST and people need to respect you accordingly. Want to put some pride in your stride and show off the muscle in your hustle? Then make sure you check out the WWT store. Not now, but right now. Alright? What you waiting for? Head to www talkpodstore.com and don't make me fight you. Shit.
Please don't make us fight you. We don't want to do that. Of course, you can get your merch by scanning the QR code in the upper right-hand corner. And again, shout out to All Caribbean Wrestling. All Caribbean Wrestling has a big show coming up on August the 31st, just a couple of weeks away. Jam Slam, that's going to be very, very special. A lot of incredible matches happening for that. So be on the lookout for that. All right. Now, let's talk about a woman we've not heard from in quite some time. That is Raquel Rodriguez, who many thought was going to have a very, very big year this year, but really ran into some health challenges, having been diagnosed with mast cell activation syndrome. We've not seen her in WWE since February of this year. Well, the good thing is she's recently posted an update on her health. And she's saying that things right now are looking better for her than they have in a very long time. She said that her skin has not looked or felt this great in months. And so she's very, very excited about that. And so we're excited for her. It'll be great to see Raquel Rodriguez back whenever she is deemed healthy enough to do so. Moving on, last night on TNA Impact, a huge night which saw Nick Nemeth defend the world championship against Josh Alexander, and it went to a time limit draw. And as a result, we're going to get an Iron Man match, a 60-minute Iron Man match between these two for the world championship at TNA's next big pay-per-view, or PLE. It's called Emergence. That is going to be something special. And we also found out that this TNA NXT crossover will continue. Riley Osborne last night actually won his Ultimate X qualifying match against Chris Bay and John Schuyler. So he will be involved in the X Division title match, Ultimate X, at Emergent. Let me ask the question, and I'll start with you, Councilman. We're starting to see more and more superstars from NXT show up in TNA in a lot of ways. Given all that's happened this week for Chase U, them winning the tag team championship in the main event of NXT, and now Riley Osborne going ahead and qualifying for Ultimate X, do you think Riley Osborne could walk away as the TNA X Division champion in a couple of weeks at Emergent?
It's a possibility. It's a possibility. Anything is possible. Do I want it to happen? Absolutely not. Defund the U, and let's get us an HBCU up in here, and I'm ready to go. But I like seeing the crossover consistently happening, and I think that the IRS should definitely be knocking at Jacob's house, because for some reason he keeps funding this scandal of Chase U. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. I hope that there is gold over there at that university.
First and foremost, I am simply the accountant on hand, on retainer for my client, Chase U. I am here by one Andre Chase, Duke Hudson, Thea Hale, and Mr. Riley Osborne. I am not responsible for any money that is coming in. I am just making sure that all the proper taxes are filed and paid, and we get the proper tax breaks. That being said, I may have slid somebody at TNA a couple grand for this, but I'm happy with it. I like Riley Osborne. I think he's one of those that you can look at and you're like, all right, we can see something out of you in about another 2-3 years, get a little more seasonal. You could be something in the mid card, have a nice little running moment. But more importantly, that Nick Nemeth and Josh Alexander match, I caught about the first 10 minutes of it. I got to go back and finish it. But man, it was looking
badass.
like we was going to have a classic. So give them an hour for an Iron Man match. Yeah,
That's
no, sign me up. Chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to feed families. Canadian Perk Angle is going to cook against Nick Nemeth.
That's potential like match of the year, like right there. And we ain't even watched it yet. Them two put on.
So I just want to put this out here. It hasn't aired yet. It'll air this Tuesday, but hell, by the time we're airing this, maybe somebody will see that anyway. But I just got to sit down with Matt Cardona for TNA for Bound for Glory coming back to Detroit today. And speaking of Nick Nemeth, that match was badass, and you might want to stay tuned to knockouts and 3 counts in the following week, because I heard a guy who used to be called Ziggler might be dropping through the show. So I'm looking forward to this shit. I'm ready for them to get back to Detroit. It's going to be a good time.
That's what's up, Kyle. That's what's up.
Absolutely.
Shout out to TNA, man. I've been hitting them up for months. Like I said, it's dope. They're coming back to Detroit. I'm really interested to see how this venue is going to look, because I've literally never been to anything there, and I've lived in Michigan my whole life. But I hope they sell it out. So
Absolutely.
So,
They have
real
been on
quick,
the roll.
Before we move off of this topic of NXT and TNA, am I the only person that feels like NXT needs to send a little bit more weight and cachet towards TNA's way? Like, I've loved the names we sent so far, but like, can we get somebody with a little oomph behind their name over there?
Like Trick Willie.
Send me a little heavy hitter.
I don't
Let's
know,
balance
though,
this
man,
out.
because the way that they did the whole thing with the Rascals, though, they're playing into what they already had there. So they're playing into what some of the people are there. I think Joe Hendry getting the spotlight that he's getting on NXT is doing a lot for TNA, too, because I'm sure more people are wanting to see Joe Hendry. I mean, even if you watch the show that just was on there last night, there's Joe Hendry signs everywhere. So it might not be as much firepower being sent to TNA. I could definitely see your point as far as like for the pay-per-views, you know, like bringing out some bigger names. But at the same time, I feel like in the overall consensus I've heard from people inside TNA is that, I mean, it's doing them way better than the one that they did with AEW.
Oh, yeah,
did.
I mean,
They all feel like
yeah,
it's getting
I can
more
see
shine
that.
with that. And I mean, the eyes that it's putting on it, I feel like I just hope that eventually we can get TNA on a bigger network.
But if you want to put well, it ain't happening as long as Anthem owns access. I think they're like, hey, that's cheap, easy, in-house. But I mean, if you really want to give TNA a nice little boost, go ahead and send Trick over there real quick.
You could
Go ahead and
Thank you.
send
I'm
Pete
totally
Dunne.
with that.
Thank you.
Here's the perfect way to do this. Emergence ends. Let's say, boom, Josh Alexander knocks off Nick Nemeth, right? Before you end, go ahead and send All Ego over there. Reunite the North. Put them back together as heels.
I was kind of hoping that Josh Alexander would show up. I was hoping he was going to show up to help Ethan the other night on NXT, man. I was thinking that same shit. That would be cool to kind of connect them there.
Yeah.
Especially with Alexander going heel.
Yeah. Maybe even send Lola over there so her stock can rise up a little bit since she ain't doing nothing in NXT right now.
I mean, yeah, she can follow
right now.
She can follow suit with the champion, Roxanne. Because I mean, Roxanne. Oh yeah, that's right. She did go to TNA already.
You know, maybe.
Shots fired.
Shots fired. Oh, poor Jacob is losing it over there.
The MMA guy in me loves me some Lola Vice, all right? So, like, you know what? I love what they did.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong.
Let me say this. I think, I think one of the things that we as wrestling fans love is we love fantasy booking, which I think is great. I also feel like NXT and TNA are committed to this partnership for a lengthy period of time. So that means they're giving us time for things to cook. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. If we get the crossover things that we want to see right now, then what are we looking at in October? What are we looking at in January? What are we looking at potentially at WrestleMania? And so I think, and I see, Dylan is like, I need titles to switch between companies. I think we got to learn how to play the long game. We got to learn how to play. And I think, to a point that was mentioned earlier, not only does the 2024 wrestling fan not do much in the way of research, we also want everything right now. And I don't think there's wisdom in having everything right now. For instance, one of the biggest events on the TNA calendar is Bound for Glory, which is going to be in Detroit in October. So wouldn't it make sense to potentially lead some things to something happening in Detroit? Think about when the big shows were happening for both WWE and TNA and how much sense it'll make for those people to appear in there. Plus, what we have not been seeing is a TNA versus NXT situation. That's not what we've been seeing at all. So because of that, that makes this whole thing look different. It's not like there's a TNA invasion happening right now. It's varying people crossing the line for varying opportunities. So I think that we've got to, I think we really just have to make some moments to just play the long game and see what happens in all of this and see where it goes. I personally love seeing it being sprinkled in, not too much too soon. And so that, when things do hit a little bit harder, we'll go, oh, snap, that was great. Plus, we could also make the argument that the people who actually need to go over to get these experiences are the ones that are going. So from the TNA, from the TNA side, they are people who have not had the WWE rub. From the NXT side, it is people who are getting larger opportunities, from an Izzy Dame to, what we just saw with Riley Osborne and a few others. Remember, Wes Lee went over. Of course, he spent some time in TNA before. So I think it's interesting. I think it's really, really interesting to see how all of that's coming together. And I think, again, the bigger story right now is how many of these newer stars from TNA kind of on what I like to call excursion. And speaking of excursion, that leads us to this guy, Tavian Heights, who went over to Japan along with Josh Briggs to be a part of the N1 tournament over in Pro Wrestling Noah. And Tavian Heights, quite frankly, is becoming a massive international star. The fans over there at Pro Wrestling Noah have absolutely loved Tavian Heights. He just had an opportunity to go to the famed Ribera Steakhouse. He got his Ribera jacket, which is such a big deal. And you can see these pictures that he's got here with Mako Satomura, with the great Minoru Suzuki. Let's ask the question, and it seems almost obvious, but does Tavion Heights come back as a bigger star than when he left? And if so, what should be next for him in NXT? Kyle, let's start with you.
So first of all, I love to see Josh Briggs over there, as he's another past guest of our show from before he got in WWE. But I think that he can be, but I think it ultimately comes down to how WWE pushes that when he gets home, right? So like it's one thing for him to be over there on the tour and all that stuff, but then remember they were kind of like teasing him with the no quarter catch crew and all that stuff too. So I feel like it all just depends on how he's booked when he comes back. But I mean, if he's getting to be as big of a star as you said overseas, I mean, I would think they'd at least have to try that on NXT, would they not?
Yeah, I think his star has definitely risen. How they position him will be interesting. He's definitely part of the no quarter catch crew, and you could make the argument that he'll come back bigger than the stars currently in the no quarter catch crew. Jacob, what are your thoughts on what should happen next for Tavion Heights when he returns to the States?
I think he'll come back bigger to us in the IWC, but as far as on TV, I'm not sure, because again, it's what they do with him, but he was in the no quarter catch crew and he was kind of like slowly starting to emerge. But if you're just like, let's say you just strictly watch NXT and WWE and you don't check the internet and you're like, oh, they mentioned this thing, but like, I'm not going to look into it. And he comes back. It's like, where have you been? Is the absence going to make him go further is what I'm worried about. But I hope so, because I watched some of the matches that he had over there. They got one with him. Like, he could go. He held up with the Japanese style. Spending some time with Murder Grandpa is always a good look if Murder Grandpa likes you. So they got one with him. I hope he comes back. Maybe you can kind of split the no quarter catch crew. Maybe little Regal gets a little offended that, like, hey man, where you been? Like, I understand you left, but like, don't come back thinking you're a big deal now. Maybe they battle over the Heritage Cup. Let's get a little something going there, and then see what we got. Let's test the waters when he comes back. Just don't bring him back and insert him back where he was. That's my one thing I hope they don't do.
Okay. Honey, your thoughts on Tavion Heights?
He's definitely got a lot going on as far as what he can do in the ring and his ability. His last match, and I don't know why I forget, I'm drawing a blank, but in NXT that he had, for some reason, he just really, really shined. There's something about him to me that screams star power, and he has that ability to be a breakout star. So I can honestly see him breaking away from the no quarter catch crew and outshining, possibly in some ways outshining Charlie Dempsey, to Jacob's point where it offends him, being that he's the son of William Regal, and we know the history of wrestling that's there. But Tavion Heights has a lot going for him. He's definitely something special. He has this amazing charisma and a great smile and a great look. So, you know, that's a lot that you would need in, you know, just to begin with to create your next star. And I totally can see him breaking out into singles competition easily.
For sure. Councilman, any thoughts on that?
Same thing. And I think too, now I know, like you said, we're letting the whole emergence cook with TNA and NXT, but I could see him really making some headway as one of those that go over to TNA, possibly even winning the X Division Championship, that causing the split between the no quarter catch crew, and having Charles catch an attitude about it because he's starting to get a bit bigger.
For sure. Dylan is over here just Dylan says, is Xavier Woods and No Way Jose had a love child, you'd have Tavion Heights.
And I can't unsee it now because it's accurate.
Oh,
that
wow.
is crazy. He's not wrong. He's so not wrong.
With a dash of Carlito, with a pinch of Carlito in it.
Oh boy.
It looks like Consequences Creed.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I'm that baby daddy boss.
That leads us, of course, to tonight. Tonight, SmackDown going down at 8 p.m.
look at this.
Eastern. We will see
Look
the
at him.
official return of the tribal chief. Roman Reigns will be there. Also, we'll see a grudge match. Naomi taking on Blair Davenport. We've got Kevin Owens taking on Grayson Waller. We've got a celebration happening, the championship celebration of the Queen, Nia Jax. And we'll have a tag team match to determine the number one contender for the tag team titles. It'll be DIY taking on the Street Profits. Any thoughts of what we could see happen tonight on SmackDown? Kyle.
I talk about it all the time on our show. I'm a big fan or a big proponent of momentum, and I just feel like after what we saw when with how they lost the titles and all that stuff in Cleveland, I feel like the Profits are going to be back up and win this one. I don't know that they'll take the title off the Bloodline, but I think as far as this goes, I think the Profits are probably going to get the W.
Okay. Jacob, any thoughts for SmackDown tonight?
I got this weird, sneaky feeling, and this is based upon the history of this thing, that Tiffy might cash in tonight. I feel like this is a bait and switch on Nia. I got a weird feeling that this is set up like a bait and switch.
I've talked to my clients.
Let me get you all happy, celebrate this, and then wham, bam, thank you, man. 1, 2, 3, roll up, get out of here, run off, and then off to the races.
No.
It's Pete Kill. It's Pete Kill.
As your councilman to Strattonville, I'm letting you know our plans of cashing in are nowhere in the near future. As of
He
right
said
now.
Strattonville.
We are milking what we have. The money in the bank sales are skyrocketing right now. You know how many people got pink briefcases right now? You think we've cut that money off? No, sir.
I gotta give her credit.
Speaking of
she
money,
takes that thing everywhere, man. Like we seen her in the bar after SummerSlam, and she had that bitch everywhere.
I just got a Venmo notification from T Stratton, so I'm gonna go take care of some accounting real quick. Just saying.
She's the bougie princess. She don't deal with Venmo.
I was like, I know Venmo, not Cash App. I know I'm counting in Strattonville, and I know it ain't you. I know it ain't you.
Okay.
That's why I said Venmo and not Cash App. Come on now.
I also got my my refund from Vice City after selling cheap shirts that ripped the first wear I got them. Because of the cheap clothing that was used. I wasn't expecting to get a refund back. It took 4 weeks for it to happen, but I finally got it back. Don't even know what the app is that was used. I had to download it just to get my refund. So
hence why it says accountant for hire. I no longer offer my services to Vice City. The mayor was not paying on a timely rate, so
Oh
wow.
It sounds like there's dissension in the co-mayors.
I know, right? Co-mayors.
No, I still got his back, but the check clears. I go where the check clears. So,
wow.
All right. Well, instead of asking TK to cut the check, I guess this is where Jacob said mayor cut the check. Right? Is what happened. Yeah.
And thank you so much for that. With the bash of the officials coming up, let me write that down. We not paying the people.
But going back to SmackDown, though, I am going to say that this tag team match is probably going to be the match of the night because anything with Street Profits and DIY involved is going to be a banger for sure. I would like to hear Roman speak tonight. Last year, I was kind of left a little disappointed, and I was just like, oh, no mic. But I'm trying to be patient. I'm trying to be patient for my tribal chief. I know he's got a lot going on, especially in his family. Don't want to ask too much of my tribal chief.
Well, we will certainly see. It all goes down in about a half hour or so, so you guys can make sure you are tuned in for that. Here's how you can reach out to our highly esteemed panel. Kyle, let's start with you. How can the people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, at Detroit Knockout, and check out Knockouts and 3 Counts every Tuesday and Thursday. Like I was saying earlier, we will be joined by Matt Cardona. Did the interview today. That'll be dropping this Tuesday at 9 p.m. I'm also sitting down with Christine Faria, your current BKFC Women's Champion, who's getting ready to step back in there in the ring September 3rd, I believe. So we'll be talking to her this weekend. That'll be Thursday's show. And then, like I said, if all goes well, hopefully there will be a guy who used to be called Ziggler or Nick Nemeth dropping through the next week as well. So make sure you check us out Tuesdays, Thursdays, 9 p.m.
Also formerly known as Nikki of the Spirit Squad.
Oh, God.
Hey, man, Nikki made a lot of money, so whatever it is, I'm not hating.
Yeah, facts. Absolutely.
No,
Jacob, how can the people find
any
you?
day.
All right.
Oh, yeah. You can find me on Twitter. I'm at _J Della, one half of the former reigning, defending, undisputed podcast tag team champions of the world. The other half is my co-host, partner in crime, and man that does not like to pay his bills in a timely manner, Mr. Cedric Welton, the mayor of Vice City. And you can follow him at CE_SAYS on Twitter /X/ whatever it's being called now. Mama named it Twitter. I'm going to call it Twitter. You can also find my writings and musings over at Anscape, covering shoes and things of that nature. And every so often, catch with Red Skill Crew talking about wrestling.
Awesome. Honey, how can the people find you?
You know where to find me here Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays with the lovely crew here at WWT. Taking the night off tonight, guys. So I'm sorry to announce there will be no Honey Smackdown watch along tonight, but I hope everybody does enjoy the show. It's going to be a great 2 hours. I'm going to go home and enjoy it myself, but before I get home and enjoy it, I got to get on this train. But you guys can find me at all things Wrestling with Honey TikTok, Wrestling with Honey Instagram, Facebook, Wrestling W Honey, and like and subscribe to that YouTube that's coming out soon, the Wrestling with Honey podcast.
Awesome. And Councilman, how can they find you?
You don't have to worry about finding me. I just want y'all to make sure that you go tell your friends to support everybody on here. Go support the professor. Watch his videos. They are dope. Go check out Kyle's Knockout in 3 Counts with Summer Rae. It is a great interview. Check out Wrestling with Honey, her new podcast channel. Go subscribe to it. And let's start a funding to put on the books for this accountant and the mayor, as they will soon be locked up for crimes that they have committed in Vice City and other places that we cannot name right now. And get ready for next Wednesday, because it is Bash of the Officials. You will see the official barrier of the co-mayor, Mr. Cedric himself.
All my accounting is clean, for the record.
That's not what I
Chase
heard.
you isn't clean. So if we know Chase you not clean and you got hired,
Uncle Sam,
you laundered money on this episode.
Uncle Sam said it was clean. All I said is I make sure things were in order for my clients, Miss Hale, Mr. Chase, Mr. Riley, and Mr. Holland.
All I know is this: you don't never have to worry about that from the current tag team champions, the most electrifying tag team champions in digital media, right here.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think tonight's going to be fun on SmackDown, because I've also heard that there could be an NXT appearance tonight from the NXT champion Ethan Page and the NXT Women's Champion Roxanne Perez. I've heard that.
Let's go.
They are in Orlando tonight, so be on the lookout. It should be very, very interesting.
Wait, Lola Bliss isn't going to be there?
You hear that said?
I don't know.
You know, the star of No Mercy not going to be on SmackDown? Oh, wow.
Haters.
You guys can find me at Bonnerfight across all of the socials. Lots of fun things happening in the commentary front, so you guys can check all of that out. Southern Honor, IWE, All Caribbean, Ashday Wrestling, Nightmare Factory, Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling. Check all of that out. It's a lot of fun. Make sure you're following us here at WW Talk Pod across all the socials. Lots of fun things happening here at Women's Wrestling Talk. Shout out to all of you guys in the chat. So many of you who have helped to make today a lot of fun. We appreciate you guys greatly. And make sure you are joining us for our next episode. We've got all kinds of fun things happening here at Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet.
Thanks for joining WWT. Don't forget to like us on all social media platforms at WWTalkPod. Like and subscribe on all video and audio platforms, like yesterday, my G. And check out our website at www.talkpod.com. Thanks for watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's